Hey, we're going to build up a funk groove in C7. I'm going to show you a range of ideas. You can listen along, you can try and match what I'm playing, or you can use the ideas as inspiration for your improvisation. But however you choose to use this, the beat will keep going so you can jam in the pocket and learn in the groove. Let's go. Okay, let's start with playing the root note on the first beat. Here we go. And 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we can lead into that root note like this. Any sort of combinations of notes that can lead into it. We can kind of jump down the octave every time we hit like that if we want. Just have a little experiment, see what you like the sound of. Right, with our right hand we're going to start playing C major triads in our right hand. So the C major triad is like this. The notes C, E, G, and we're going to play it on beats 2 and 4. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So just getting used to feeling that 1 and 2 and 4 on the right hand. So this 2 and 4 is like the backbeat of the groove. So it's where the snare hits. Okay, now we don't normally play a C major triad in kind of a funk or soul progression. So we're going to make it a C dominant 7 by adding this black note here, this B flat. That's the 7th note of the chord. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take that note down to the bottom because, like I said, we don't normally play root position 7th chords in that sort of funk style. So we've got this. Now I can actually take that C note out because the C is already played in the left hand. And even though it's not played together, it's all implied together as the sound. Awesome. So just feel that root and 2 and 4 on the right hand for now. Okay, now we're going to do something to feel the division of the beat. So we can divide each of our 1, 2, 3, 4 in 4. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a... And what I'm going to do is I'm going to feather that subdivision with my thumbs like this. I'm kind of accenting when the start of the bar is. And those lighter notes are called ghost notes, and we can kind of chuck them in the middle of our groove like this. There's all sorts of combinations you can have an experiment with, so give it a go, see what you like the sound of, see what feels good under your fingers. You'll notice the actual note itself doesn't really matter, it's not part of the chord, it's all just part of the feel of that rhythm. So you can kind of get other fingers involved. And that's the idea of ghost notes, so just feeling that subdivision of beat lightly under your fingers. Okay, now I've been hitting that sort of 2 and 4 really solidly with the right hand. Let's try and mix that up a bit by adding some syncopation. Once again, lots of combinations you can do here. Just make sure you're always landing on the 1, so you can feel that start of the bar. play across the bar like this. Yeah, so just try out the different combinations and see what you come up with, see what feels good for you. Okay, let's change the notes a little bit. So I'm going to take this shape and slip a semitone below it like this. So just slowing that down, we've got these notes here, which is our target notes, and just slipping a semitone below it. Notice my top fingers are just kind of slipping off the black notes like that, and it's my thumb that has to jump. So you can kind of get that really legato sound. I'm always hitting the slip chord stronger than the target chord. See what I mean? Giving it a bit of an accent. Okay, let's look at some other chords we can branch out. So we're going to look at going parallel shapes up the scale like this. So the scale we're using is C mixolydian. It's like a C major scale but with a B flat. And what we can do is we can get a chord shape and move it up that scale. So see, I've got that wider interval at the bottom and the smaller interval at the top, and that's the shape I'm using. Kind of think of it as like a second inversion shape. I'm just moving it up and down the scale, making sure I'm always hitting the B flat instead of a B, because that's the scale note, so we can play with this. So you can have a play with all sorts of combinations. Okay, so that's parallel chords. Now, to make it sound a little bit more bluesy, we're going to add some grace notes. So the really key note in these chords is the third there, and I'm actually going to slip off the black note below it. So the technique is I'm hitting the chord like that, and while the outer notes are held down, I'm going to slip that middle note in the chord there. I can do it with some other voicings. Notice I'm doing that grace note in time. So I'm always outlining the subdivision with these grace notes. Every now and then I hold it a bit longer but hit the next subdivision. Alright, we've been hanging in C7, so let's make it a little bit more interesting. We're going to add a 1-4 progression here. So we're going from C to F. Okay, so Just one thing to note here, when we hit our F7, we've got to make sure we hit E flat with that chord. Notice how the E kind of clashes because you've got this major 7 sound, which isn't the sound we're after, so we've got this chord there. So whatever I'm riffing on, I make sure I just stay on E flat when we hit the F7. Have a little play along and see what combinations you come up with. Okay, so there's so much you can do with just parallel chords alone over that progression. So have a lot of fun with that and try stuff out and see what you gel with. But now let's just try a few other little techniques. So we've got, we'll just look at the essential notes of the chord. So we're going to look at shell voicings here. So for a C7 to be a C7, all we need is the root note. And in the right hand, all we need is the 3rd note and the 7th note. The other notes of the chord are just kind of for colour and texture. So the C7 by itself can just exist like this. In the F7, it's the same thing. So we've got our root, 3rd and 7th. Now what I'll do is I'm going to take this shape here and just invert it downwards. So this B flat's going to head down here. The reason I do that, you'll see that our shells are right next to each other. So we can add our ghost notes and grace notes. So once you get used to these are the essential notes of the chord, you can kind of extend it from there when you want a thicker sound. But if you want to just kind of strip back the groove, you can just bring it back to shells and ghost notes and grace notes. So let's extend them now. So I can sort of add extra notes from the scale here. So at the moment I'm doing what's called a C13 and F9. But you can have a little experiment with adding other notes in there for thickness if you want a thicker texture. Really, I would just encourage you to experiment and not think about the theory too much about what they're called. Just make sure you've got that shell voicing in there. Or you could even just go away from the shell voicing and approach it like a parallel chord thing. But for now, let's just look at extensions. See what sounds it leads you to. Cool, so we've talked a lot about harmony and the rhythm. But let's look at the scales that we can actually use to create some riffs to make our groove a little bit more interesting. So we're going to look at the major pentatonic scale here. So with that scale, we've got C, D, E, G, A, C. So we're just skipping 2 notes to get our 5-note scale. I know I'm playing 6 notes, but the C is repeated there. Whoop. And what we can do for a bit of a bluesier sound is just add this flat 3 that we've been playing on anyway with our grace notes. in between our chords. So that's just playing with notes from that major pentatonic scale. But we've also got our minor pentatonic scale, or our blues scale, which gets a really nice kind of bluesy sound. So let's look at that scale slowly. We've got these three notes here, C, E flat and F. Then we replicate that shape, but starting off with the G. So I kind of think of it, it's got a little bit of symmetry there. C, E flat, F, G, B flat, C. And especially in this key center, we've got that same arrangement of white and black notes, which makes it kind of cool. In between those two shapes, we've also got this note there, which is our blues note, our F sharp. It's not the kind of note I like to just hang on. It's more like a note that wants to kind of go up or down. Okay, now let's try it with our groove. Okay, so that's just using those kind of scales to play riffs in between our chordal ideas. I don't really think of one or the other scale, I just know that they're there as options. And I usually just think of notes within the scale, like bouncing off the 6, or the blues note. So I'm not really tied to one scale. I'm kind of using a bit of a mixture of both, depending on what sound I want to create in the moment. All right, so now that we've kind of talked about these kind of scales and these riffs, I'm going to just introduce a concept called double stops. That's when we get a phrase and we're adding a note on the top. So that phrase could be anything, but the idea is that we're pedaling on a note over the top, like that. And at the moment I'm using the tonic note. That's a great option, but you can do it with other notes, sevenths. Or the 6, I love this sound. Or the 5th. So now I'll just try it in the groove. I particularly like that 6 double stop on the F chord, because you've got those strong notes of the F triad. So now that's kind of talking about double stops. We've been playing with parallel chords. Let's talk about harmonic intervals. So we can actually use like things like fourths, where we've got like a shape like that, and make a really strong set. with the thirds. We've kind of already been playing with thirds because it's the top of the parallel chords. But sometimes it's good to strip back to thirds because it frees up the hand to do other riffs. Same kind of concept with adding those grace notes. We can also look at the inverse of thirds and doing 6 like this. Again, it's kind of like the parallel chords because it's the outer note. You can have a little play with thirds, 6 and fourths if you want that stronger sound or a more colourful sound. It's the thirds and the 6. Alright, and another strong interval we can use is the octave. So just working on that technique of playing up and down the scales with octaves. Notice I'm giving it a bit of punch by doing a chord extension in the left hand. That works really great when you've got a left hand. Okay, so we've got plenty of ideas there. The thing I want to leave you with is the idea of shaking between 2 notes. So a very common one is this kind of one between the 5th and 7th. Another little technique I wanted to talk about was the roll. So we can kind of hit a shape like this and then go down another shape like this. So I'm using E flat, G, and then going down a C major triad and landing with my double stop. So I'll just play it in the groove so you can hear it. That's just one position you can roll from. So you can kind of take any sort of shape and kind of roll down from it. Alright, now I've given you all the ideas. Let's have a jam. And see what combinations you like to do. See what ideas that you want to gel with and practice. Here we go. Thanks for jamming along with me today. I hope you've had fun with this. Check the links in the description for more things that can help you in your music journey. Thank you again, and bye for now.